Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Success Thursday, the big question of the week, this week with Amruta Beri. Hey, Amruta, welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
So we'll talk about success in a minute, so stick around, everybody. But first, we want to talk about retrospective, which is, after all, the tool we use to help us get to that success. So Amruta, share with us, what's your favorite retrospective format and why?
Absolutely. So according to me, retrospective is a very, very, very important agile event, and it allows you to, recognize where you could improve, and it gives you that time to come up with action items. And it's so important for the team to look into like what happened and how we should move ahead to pivot, basically. And that is why I love the retrospective event. It's one of my favorites from all of the events in a Scrum. So I like to keep it a mixed bag with different themes of retrospectives, because I have also observed that over the time, if you just go with the three questions of what went well, what did not go well, it really becomes boring and people are like trying to avoid the meeting. So there are a lot of themes that I like to implement. Like few of my favorites are a sailboat theme, hip hop theme. There's a space retrospective that I love, a Vegas retrospective. There are a lot of different themes that I like to follow. But in all these themes, what is common is the format. So I always like to welcome them with a nice icebreaker, which like establishes that mood. You don't want to be thinking about work and you don't want to be under stress. Oh God, what am I going to say in this retrospective? So you just want to like lighten the mood a little bit. So, a nice game, which is like really small, like a quick 10 minutes, or an icebreaker makes them really comfortable and sets them in the mood for that retrospective. Next is I like to dive right into appreciations, because it is so important. Sprint after sprint, we are heads down working, and we are so involved in our day-to-day work. We have absolutely no time to look up and see where we're heading. So appreciations, I think, come in as an encouragement that, hey, I know what you have done in the past sprint, and I really appreciate your contribution. And when it comes from a team member, that recognition really motivates one another. So I just love the appreciation part of a retrospective. And I make it a point that, appreciations are always a part of my retrospective. Next, I always go into action items from the past retrospectives, because many a times I've seen that those kind of get lost if you don't keep a track, and people just go on with their day-to-day work, ignore whatever action items have been planned, and just come up with new ones every retrospective. So there's really no point in going on with new action items if the old ones are not closed. So if at all the action items are not closed from the previous retrospectives, we just come up with a new ETA. There is no task directive that it has to be done in the next sprint. Obviously, we all recognize priorities, and sprint priorities are the most important. And action items are important, but they have to be done at their own time. The next one is the actual retrospective. So whatever theme I've chosen for that particular week, we do the retrospective accordingly. And like I said, I like to keep the themes mixed, so it's always a fun way to depict. Like a sailboat is like when you're sailing from one end and you're trying to reach an island. So how did the winds help you? So the winds would be like your something that went well in the project, sorry, not in the project, in the sprint, and what helped you go towards your sprint goal. Similarly, anchors could be like your obstacles, where something made you pivot in the sprint, or something made you not complete your stories. So these kind of themes really make people think. So the idea is again, where the basic question is again the same about what went well, what did not go well. But when you put it in a different, like when you represent it in a visual way, it becomes more easy to relate to, and people are more than happy to contribute. Next is I always go to the action items for the current sprint. So whatever they want to implement, based off the reflections of the current sprint, those would be the ideas or whatever action items they want to come up with. And I always close my retrospectives with, a good thought for, how Agile could improve our project and how it is creating value. So just always leave them with that thought in their mind. And I always like keep my retrospective for an hour and a half, because I've experimented with 45 minutes, then an hour, but kind of like we don't get to it. It just kind of feels rushed, and I try to avoid that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important what you said of experimenting with different lengths or durations so that you find the right one for that team and for yourself, of course.
Absolutely.
Now, this retrospective, and thank you for sharing all of these ideas, great ideas and insights here. This retrospective is a key part of our arsenal of tools to help the team succeed and to help ourselves also succeed. And that's what we're going to talk about next, Amruta. So share with us, what does success mean for you as a Scrum Master?
So, like I previously also mentioned, identifying the right problems that you want to address. So, when you identify the right problems, you have the right goals to fix these problems. When you have the right goals, you come up with the right metrics to validate those goals. So, it is very easy to identify the right metrics to validate your goals. And the only way to determine that you're going in the right direction and you're successful is to follow those metrics and come up with data that validates your success. So this metrics now not only data is never wrong, they say, and it always presents reality, and it could be shared across all levels. So it could be shared across stakeholders, for my own team to present reality, and that makes a whole lot of difference. Now, whatever goals we have always heard about, like establishing SMART goals. So SMART is like an acronym: small, measurable, achievable, all that. But at the same time, your goal should also be aligned with the product or the business strategy that the organization has set for that particular product or that particular project that you're implementing. And when you try to align your own team goals with those goals, you're kind of already like maybe 50% moving towards success. The only thing that is remaining is how you would implement, or how you would take action towards completing it. So current organization that I work with, they're very they're product based organization, and they are heavily into product management and what we could do to improve product management, and they are pro agile. And recently we had the pleasure to go through this product management institute training material from Melissa Perry, and over there it was such an eye opener to implement this heart metrics framework, where heart is again an acronym. So heart stands for happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, task success. So again, I ran an innovation sprint with my team where we worked around this heart metrics to identify in each of these categories what we could do to create happiness for our customers. What should be our goal to create happiness? What should be our goal to create engagement, adoption, retention, so on and so forth? You won't believe the number of ideas that came up during these sessions. Now, after these ideas, we had to we had to really focus on, if there were 10 ideas, we couldn't really focus on everything. That is another problem that I've seen, that, if there are 10 goals identified, people want to achieve all 10 of them. No, that is not the way to go, you know, go, go that is not the way how you achieve them. Basically, you
No,
need
you get
to
confused, right? You try to do too many things.
Absolutely. So you need to identify, or you need to prioritize, like, what is it that you really want to achieve, and in which category. Maybe, like, initially you just want to concentrate on engagement from your customer. Maybe that is the problem area that you face, and that is where you think you could really create value, so you concentrate on engagement. Otherwise, maybe somebody maybe just focusing on retention. Maybe they're not getting enough. Maybe just customers are just coming them for trials and not really buying the products. So over there, retention could be really important goal. So accordingly, for my team, we really wanted to focus on engagement. That is what we prioritize as a goal for our next quarter. So what we try to do for that particular goal is, our team really has a lot of support call burden, and a lot of time from the engineers is spent around these support cards that come up. There's a lot of time investigating them. Sometimes we feel that the problems are repeating, so we need to like bundle up, but they're for different vendors. So for different vendors, there might be like different kind of solutions. The problem is the same, but different solutions. So it becomes very time consuming to address all these issues. So our goal was to decrease the number of outbound customer service calls by 50% by the end of 6 months. So the steps that we took were, first of all, identifying what this call volume was, how much of call volume we are getting, and from which vendors. So categorize the vendors and what was the call volume against these vendors. Then the next step was that we were to categorize what kind of support queries are we getting. So when we had those categories, we could concentrate on what is the most occurring category that we need to focus on. Accordingly, we took steps to improve our software services, provide the best, the best support in terms of replying to that customer as fast as possible. And we offered all these solutions to our vendors. And after that, we have seen quite a drop in our support calls, because we have been able to identify the right problem and provide a fix for it, which is the work is still in progress, but I'm sure.
And there will be a next level of categories, right? Like every category has a certain number of calls, and when you're done with one, you go on to the next, and you can reduce the number of calls immensely with that approach.
Absolutely. But the success here was to identify the right problem and to provide an achievable target. Like, we went with only 50% of drop. We didn't say that, okay, we're going to finish, all that support burden, and we are going to ensure that the team is able to, address everything at one time. No, that is certainly not achievable, and it puts a lot of pressure on the team to, complete that particular goal. So that is what I find success in, or I define success by.
Absolutely. Great story. And also very practical. I really like how you made this practical. And I'm a big believer that goals drive behavior. So I really like the fact that you focus on having the goal as kind of the catalyst for the team to find, what to focus on, and of course, measure if you're getting there. And I think that itself, that having that motivation and the goal, and then the ability to measure and reflect on the measurement is critical for our success as Scrum Master. So thank you for sharing that, Amruta.
Most welcome. I hope our listeners are going to benefit from it.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.